Hello, this is a quick recording on how to establish your profile, set up office hours, and quickly identify your student list. Once inside your Starfish environment, please go to the hamburger menu located next to the word Starfish. When you click on that, you should see your picture as well as your name and an arrow pointing down. If you click on that, you get 5 tabs. Obviously, log out will take you to logging out of the system. Help is going to give you important information for your end user experience. And then these 3 tabs, institutional profile, appointment preferences, and email notifications, are what you will need to establish your profile and begin setting up your office hours. So let's start with institutional profile. On this page, there isn't much you'll need to do. Your institution should have already uploaded your photo. They should have already potentially brought in your phone number. If they have not, please enter your work office phone number. Do not enter your cell phone number or alternate email address, as this profile information is student facing. Notice that there is a login page default. So once you start using Starfish in your daily work, you can start to identify what tab you go to the most and just tell Starfish to directly go to that page. So when you log in, you don't actually have to navigate there. So you might want to come back and change that once you've worked with Starfish for a little while. If you scroll down to the general overview, here you can just write a quick message regarding what your office and you can do for the student. Some departments like this to be structured across the board. Other departments will let each end user opt for their own personal wording here. Please check with your director to make sure that you know what to include. The My Biography is an optional portion, but does allow you to give some insight about your background. This is helpful if students are able to schedule with anybody within your department. Maybe maybe you love pugs and you have a student that just so happens to read your biography and they love pugs. Now they feel a connection with you and they want to schedule that appointment. So that's where the My Biography can become helpful. Once you've updated this page, you do need to hit your submit button located at either the top or the bottom. Once you have completed, you can move on to your appointment preferences tab. Here, you can establish your minimum appointment length. We actually recommend that you choose 15 minutes, although we know that that does not work for all departments. The idea here is, what are you giving students the availability to schedule on? So if I'm a student and I'm looking at your calendar, my class gets out at 1 o'clock. If I have my minimum appointment length set to 15 minutes, it's going to allow me to schedule on the 15 and the 45, as well as the o'clock and the 30. So as a student, I get out of class at 1 o'clock, you're available at 1:15. I can schedule my appointment at 1:15 with you instead of having to wait until 1:30. Obviously, if you would set it to 20 minutes, you would allow the student to schedule at 20, 40, and o'clock. If you set it to 30 minutes, they're going to be able to schedule on the half hours and the hours. Please know that the minimum appointment length does not indicate how long the meeting is. The duration of the meeting is actually controlled by your Starfish administrators. When they go in and set up your appointment type that aligns all of your reasons that a student could select to meet with you, they can put in per reason how long the appointment is. So most advising appointments are 30 minutes. Maybe a dismissal appointment might be an hour. So each reason would have 30 minutes except for that dismissal reason, which would then be set for an hour. So going back to our scenario where a student signs up at 1 o'clock or gets out of class at 1 o'clock, signs up at 1:15, if they chose the dismissal, they would then get blocked from 1:15 to 2:15. Okay. If you did not have that amount of time available in your schedule, say you had a 2 o'clock appointment, it would tell the student that there is not enough time for the appointment that they selected. Okay. This scheduling deadline, again, this is something you'll want to check with your director on. If your, Some directors like to say that everybody has the same scheduling deadline. A lot of directors will make it optional so that each end user can customize the system for how they would like. The scheduling deadline is when is the cutoff for the student to schedule time with you. So obviously none means that in that scenario, the student gets out of class at 1 o'clock, sees you're available at 1:15 and can schedule. If you want to know the day before what your next day is going to look like, you can set it to cut off scheduling at 5. I always personally liked that. So when I left the office at 5 o'clock today, I would know what my Tuesday schedule was going to look like. You can do the day of the office hours. This is helpful, especially for individuals who support students on academic issues like course tutoring, things like that, because we know a lot of times students are working over at night, 2 o'clock in the morning, they're working on their math homework, they get stuck on a problem, they want to be able to still schedule with you. So this is helpful for those individuals who work in those capacities where you can have the same day. So maybe you want to set the deadline for 6 a.m. So that you know what your day is going to look like when you get up in the morning. And then for individuals who do not work the same set of hours each day, they don't work 9 to 5. This is good for faculty members who don't work the same office hours each day. You can do it X amount of hours before the start of your office hours. Okay. This allowed drop-ins after deadline has passed. I actually show you a different way to combat that, so you can check it, not check it, it doesn't matter. This add location, this obviously is where you can come in and set up your different location types, office, phone, elsewhere, or online. Most institutions do office and phone. I do have some that do online appointments. If I remember correctly from our training, I think there were some Zoom appointments that could be made at your institution. So you could do the online appointments. Likewise, if you want to track your email, that's not to say that you want to document every email as an engagement with a student, but if a student is asking you an advising question that you would get if they were sitting face-to-face or calling you up, and you want to track that as a contact with the student, you can choose one of these types and then just put in the word email. Even though you've added it as a location, you don't have to allow the student to be able to schedule those type of appointments. And I'll show you where that's controlled later on. But go ahead and set up as many locations as you would like to offer to the student or like to track. And then calendar managers, this is a great way to be able to add anybody who should be able to go in and schedule on your calendar. So a lot of times front end office staff, your boss should probably have access to your calendar. So go ahead and add those people in. If you just start typing, they will pull up. Please know that students do not appear in this list. If you need to add a student worker, they need to have a separate role outside of student. They need to actually have a student worker role, and then they can be added. Again, once you've completed this, you'll need to hit submit at either the top or the bottom. And then we move on to the email notification tab. Here, we can control how much Starfish communicates with you regarding your appointments. So the first part there is the planning reminder. The first one says, send me a separate email for each appointment. That means if you have 10 appointments scheduled, you are going to receive 10 separate emails. The next one down is send one email or reminder with all appointments. Most people, if they do opt to get an email communication, they are going to opt for that. So obviously they would get one email with their 10 appointments listed out. Or because we are so connected in this digital age, most people don't even ask for an email because they're going to get their Outlook calendar that's integrated on their phone, and their email's already integrated on their phone, so they're going to get everything they need already. If you do choose one or two, you can set what day and time you want that message to come to you. You can also get an alert, which is an additional email 15, 30, 45, or 60 minutes prior to the start of the appointment. You can also get an email when there's changes to my appointments. I do recommend that you leave that checked. If a student cancels the appointment, you would like to know that immediately. Likewise, the change to my office hours and group sessions, you're going to be the one making those changes, so I don't know that you need an email confirmation of that, but again, that is your choice. And then you should see read busy times from my external calendar. It doesn't say Google, but I do need you to check that box. You should see a Trinity link down towards the bottom here. I need you to copy that link. Do not get the period in it. So it'll say .edu and have a period right after that. Don't get that period in it. If you do, there's another place I can show you to delete it, but definitely just get that full link without the period and copy that. And then you should click here and you're going to get your instructions. Now, here in demo, if I click here, you're going to get the Google Calendar, right? Because we have it set up for Google. But if you were to click here on yours, you're going to get your Outlook information. And it's going to tell you to go into your webmail. Don't do this through the desktop. It's not, in my opinion, as efficient. Go into your webmail, go to your calendar. You should see the word share. Click on share within your Outlook calendar. Paste in that Trinity link that you just copied. This is another time to check and make sure that when you have that .edu, you don't have that extra period after the U. If you do, go ahead and delete it there. And then go ahead and hit enter. Make sure you give it the full details and hit send. That should share your calendar. And again, if you, where it says click here, it'll actually show you step by step of what I just told you using the visual Outlook. Okay. The bottom part is the summary emails. This is how often you should get what we call the daily digest messages. You're going to want to get the daily if you're a staff member. You don't know when faculty are going to go in and submit this information. So you want to make sure you're getting the information as quickly in real time as possible. So make sure you do daily. I believe the default is 2 a.m. You can, however, change that to whatever time is beneficial for you. And then this tracking item notification, make sure that you have unchecked when an item is raised and an item is cleared. If you have a case management of 200 and some students, you would get an email every time there was a tracking item raised. You don't want that or cleared, okay? However, do keep when an item is assigned to me, your institution does use the assignment feature. And so if at any point in time somebody assigns a flag or a referral for you to follow up on, you want to make sure you get that information in real time, okay? So once you've completed filling those pieces out, go ahead and hit your submit button. And that concludes setting up your profile. Now we need you to set up your office hours. So go back to our hamburger menu and please go to the appointment tab. And here in the appointment tab, you should see add office hours. When you click add office hours, you can change your title. This is helpful if you have a large department where you might have one or two front office staff members who are scheduling on a bunch of individuals' calendars. It might be helpful to change it to have your name, like maybe Megan's appointments, something like that, to make it a little easier for them to identify your calendar. It is color coded, but when you're sitting there looking, you know, orange to orange, it could get a little confusing. So this is one way to offset it. You can change it, don't change it, totally your choice. And then you just put in your office hours. Now, if you work different days and times, you are probably going to have to, you will have to do this more than once. If you have a standard 8 to 5 day, then you can select the days that you work, put in your 8 to 5, and then the where is now pulled in from the locations that you set up during your profile. And this is where I was saying you can select the locations to give students a choice. But remember that email one that I said you can track it for your own purposes, but we don't want to actually give the student the choice to schedule an email appointment. You would just make sure you left the email choice unchecked. So for this instance, we're going to go ahead and give them the option of doing Skype and Room 363. Okay. This office hour type, If you are taking appointments, I want you to always choose scheduled and walk-ins. The reason I want you to include walk-ins there is because if you have a student who doesn't show up, or maybe you don't get booked and your waiting room has a ton of students in there, you want to be able to interact and engage with those students and not have Starfish tell you, you said you were only taking appointments, okay? So make sure you do scheduled and walk-ins. Now, if you are truly only on walk-ins and you don't want students the option to schedule with you, then obviously you would select walk-ins. The one that I want you to avoid is scheduled appointments only. Even if you're only supposed to be taking scheduled appointments, still do scheduled and walk-ins, because I guarantee you if there's students in the waiting room and you don't have somebody, you're going to need to be able to get them in and help service them. And you don't want Starfish telling you that you can't, right? So do scheduled and walk-ins. How long? The minimum appointment length is already going to pull in from your profile, but then you do need to set the maximum appointment length. And so this is where we really discuss what is the longest reason for the appointments that you have. So if we go back to the example of advising appointments are 30 minutes except for dismissal, is that hour, we would need to make sure we had this set for 1 hour to accommodate that. And you do have more choices than what's showing here in demo, so don't worry about that. So go ahead and set that to whatever your longest reason is. If you don't know, ask your Starfish administrator, although I would err on the side of caution and do probably 1 hour. And then appointment types. If you just have one role within Starfish, you're an advisor, that's your role at the institution, then you're not even going to see this because you're only associated with one appointment type. If you have multiple roles, so you're an advisor, but you're also an adjunct, right? You would see your advising appointment type as well as your instructor appointment type. So if you wanted to set office hours for your students, I know adjuncts don't, but just going with that idea here, if you were to set up office hours for your teaching, you would have a different set of reasons, so it would be connected to a different appointment type. And so that's why you might see a couple of different appointment types. If you don't see that, that's because you have one role connected to one appointment type and you don't need to select, right? The other piece too is down here at the bottom, you have the nice start and end date tab. So start date is going to be the day that pulls right from the calendar. So you'll notice July, yeah, I wish it was July, January 28th. Obviously, if you were to select this tomorrow, it'd be January 29th. If you need to change that date, you can do so. But where it's really helpful is this end date. For most of you, you're just going to leave it to never. You have that ongoing schedule and you have students that can schedule with you. However, sometimes it makes end of term, especially like faculty members. So their office hours change at the end of each term. So you could come in here and change to end of term. For a lot of institutions, tutoring ends the week before finals week. So you could select on a date and do it the week before finals. So you could go in and change that to whatever that date needed to be. Okay. And that would be setting up your office hours. Again, if you have different days and times that you work, you're going to need to do this multiple times. So if Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're 8 to 5, but Tuesday, Thursday, you're 10 to 6, then you need to, do one set of office hours for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, do another set of office hours for Tuesday, Thursday. Okay. Go ahead and hit submit when you're done with that. If you scroll down, you should see your office hours set up, as well as you should see, because we synced your calendar, you should see your information from your Outlook displayed in here as well. Okay. If you go to the Agenda tab, this is a quick way to see your set of office hours. If you hover over the office hours, you can edit and cancel your set of office hours. That's the easiest way to edit and cancel. You can come here and add an appointment from this tab. You can also do it from the sign up button. That looks like just a standard adding appointment that we discussed. You can create group sessions. These cannot overlap with your existing office hours. So if you have a group session from, say, 9 to 10 on Tuesday, you would need to go in, delete this set of office hours. So you could just cancel this particular one and then put in your office hour or put in your group session and then go back in and add your rest of your office hours in. But your group sessions are going to allow you to set up for multiple students to meet with you. Great to capture workshop information. And it does allow the student to register with you. The Add Event tab is going to allow you to quickly add events. So this is if you had like a sign-up sheet and you want them to you want to go back after the event and add in the ID numbers or usernames so that you can quickly see who attended the event. You can also record outcomes on them. Group sessions allow for students to actually register. Events are a way for you to document after the event. Reserve time, if you need to block off a set of time here, you could come in and reserve time. So, and it would just block it off here so that students aren't able to schedule. So there was my block of time. Okay. So that is establishing your office hours and just kind of a real quick review of the tabs up top. And then if you come to your Students tab and you go to My Students, you'll see here your connection. You should see your advisor role, your primary advisor role, which is going to show you your caseload. So in the case of Yvette, if we get all of her filters off here, she should see 207 students, which is her case management load. There is also a general advisor role, which is going to give her, or a professional advisor, I believe is what it's called in your case, which is going to give the all students relationship, as well as any additional roles that you might have if you're teaching, things like that. This All My Students is a conglomeration of all your roles here. Now, your professional advisor role has that all student relationship. So those two roles are literally going to be the same, All My Students and the professional advisor role. For the term, ongoing, as well as the academic term that you are in, so spring 2019 in this case, is always defaulted in the active, so you can go ahead and just leave active, but you can also filter back on previous terms if you need to. And so that's your student list. When you click on a student folder or a student name, you're doing what we call opening the student folder, and this is where you can get a lot of your data. That concludes setting up your profile, establishing your office hours, and just a quick view of your student list and how to make sure you're filtering for the right connection and term. Thank you. Bye-bye.